Coming up on Network Africa. Rwanda shoots a DR Congo fighter jet in defensive move. Cyclone hits Madagascar and destroys roads to its capital. Plus, death toll from South Africa heatwave rises to 8. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. The Rwandan government says defensive measures were taken on a Democratic Republic of Congo fighter jet, which it says violated its airspace. Eyewitness footage shows a military plane being shot at while flying at a low altitude between the towns of Goma in the DR Congo and Gisenyi in Rwanda. In a statement, the DRC's Information Ministry condemned the incident and denied that its jet had flown over Rwandan airspace. Rwanda, on the other hand, said this was the third incident involving a Congolese fighter jet on its airspace and asked its neighbor to stop the aggression. DR Congo accuses Rwanda of supporting M23 rebels, which Kigali authorities have consistently denied. Over in Mali, where the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, has called for enhanced humanitarian support for those fleeing the country from continuous violence and threats by armed groups. As the needs of the displaced remain enormous, UNHCR is appealing to the international community to show greater solidarity for the displaced in Mali and in neighboring countries to be able to continue to deliver life-saving assistance.
Since the departure of Barkhane and European troops, there is a vacuum created by this departure. And in this vacuum that right now we don't have any state authorities in that region. So it really left in the hands of armed groups, terrorist armed groups, which are really spreading terror, spreading killings, spreading rapes, creating misery. And right now, we are just noticing people coming in masses in this region, and including of course, refugees who have been already displaced for quite a long number of years of time in those regions. So now those same refugees are really spreading out again in the different regions. We are talking about almost 500,000 of people who are in the need of assistance in terms of displacement. But of course, beyond that, in Mali, we have almost 3 million people who are in need of assistance, humanitarian assistance, and only 38% of the assistance requested was gathered last year in order to secure assistance and protection to IDPs and refugees. We have oftentimes testimonies from refugees or testimony from IDPs noting that they have been in touch or they have been somehow they have seen on the scene those groups that can perceive as not Malian troops but as foreign troops involved in those conflicts. Unfortunately, there is kind of Mali fatigue, if I can call it that way, and we are really seeing a kind of diminution drastically of the assistance provided to IDPs and refugees.
Meanwhile, a humanitarian worker has been kidnapped in Mali, and that's according to the World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus. Mahamadou Diawara, who is a doctor that works for the global health body, was reportedly abducted from his car in eastern Mali. In a social media post, the WHO boss said he deplored the actions of the identified assailants who abducted Dr. Diawara in the district of Menaka. He adds that rescue teams are working with local authorities to investigate the abduction and ensure Dr. Diawara's quick return to his family. Let's get more on the latest crisis between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, as we bring in security expert David Otto, who joins us virtually from the nation's capital in Abuja. You're welcome once again to Network Africa.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So what could be the potential ramifications if the Rwandan missile had hit that Congolese fighter jet?
I mean, even if it did miss, as we know that it hit the fuselage of the what they call the Sukhoi 25 jet fighter. I think it's still a very significant consequence, because of course the Rwandan military or the defense system, deployed what they call the man-portable air defense missile. I think it therefore undermines the Luanda Agreement and also the Nairobi Accord. There is also currently an ongoing negotiation which was meant to take place in Doha, but of course the Congolese president Felix Tshisekedi did not attend. So it's a very critical situation. Bearing in mind, as you mentioned in the beginning, that it is the third time that the Rwanda government is accusing the Congolese government of violating its airspace. First in November of 2022. And then secondly, in December of 2022. So it's a very critical, deteriorating situation that, Rwanda and DRC Congo are experiencing at this point.
And so the Rwandans insist that the jet had violated their airspace. Are these things that are strictly observed? Could this be some Rwandan mischief, do you think?
I think both sides are, putting forward their own story. Remember, Rwanda and DRC Congo share a common border. And of course, there are established procedures and protocols, when it comes to violation of airspace. First of all, it's just like a normal border, or, when some other country, violates the territorial integrity and sovereignty of your, your water space. But, I believe that, when it comes to friendly nations, this is not much of a problem. But location matters a lot. The type of maneuver that the aircraft makes. Even the type of aircraft also does matter, because of course the Rwandan government argues that first of all, it's not the first time, and secondly, they are in a very unfriendly situation, and it was a defensive mood, position. They said, I mean, for them, it could have been a strike that was coming from the DRC. Fighter jet. But the DRC argues very strongly that, it did not, veer into the Rwandan airspace. So it's about, here and there, one side says one thing, the other side says another thing. Again, it boils down to the fact that both states.
Is this an unusual situation for Congolese fighter jets to be, traversing airspace, given the unrest between the government and rebels in that country? We do apologize. We seem to have temporarily lost security expert David Otto. We'll try to reconnect and get back to him as soon as possible. In the meantime, let's move on to other stories. The United Nations spokesperson, Stefan Dujarric, says the special advisor on the prevention of genocide, Alice Warimu Indiritu, has commended the ongoing efforts by the East African community and the African Union to negotiate steps to end the violent conflicts in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide, Alice Ndiritu, reiterated her grave concern about the deteriorating situation, security and human rights situation there, particularly in Ituri province. In a statement, the Special Advisor said that civilians are being massacred based on their ethnic identity, yet again adding that the conditions necessary for the commission of atrocity crimes continues to be present in a region of genocide, where genocide happened back in 1994. She commended the ongoing efforts by the African and East African community and the African Union to negotiate steps to end the violent conflict and build a culture of sustainable peace in the region. Her full remarks are online.
The Catholic Church in the Democratic Republic of Congo is gearing up for elections later this year, urging congregants to register to vote and deploy observers to hold the country's election body to account. A priest at St. Charles Luanga Church, Father Victor Ntambwe, is one of those at the head of this move, saying congregants must make their votes count.
Alongside his family, Ntambwe brandishes his voter card as he delivers his homily at the St. Charles Luanga Church in Kinshasa, the capital of DR Congo. With presidential elections just months away, he has some earthly concerns.
Every one of us has to do everything we can to get our voter's card. We need to punish mediocrity. Our authorities are incapable. They do nothing.
The Catholic Church in the Democratic Republic of Congo has a long history of promoting democracy in the vast African country, where organizing elections has been complicated by financial and logistical problems, and where disputes over vote tampering have frequently caused widespread unrest. Once again, the church is gearing up to monitor elections scheduled for December, in which the president, Felix Tshisekedi, will seek a second term in office.
Wherever I do Mass, I show my voter's card to tell Christians that it is their civic duty that they need to fulfill as citizens. It means they need to enroll if tomorrow they don't want political leaders imposed on them. It's a way to hold to account those who are mediocre and to get competent leaders capable of resolving problems that Congo is facing.
Preparations are underway just as Congo, home to 45 million Catholics, the most of any African country, prepares for the arrival of Pope Francis, the first papal visit since 1985. This year, for the first time, the National Episcopal Conference of Congo has partnered with the Church of Christ of Congo, a union of 64 Protestant and evangelical denominations. Earlier, in a classroom of the Commercial Technical Institute in Ndagaliema district of Kinshasa, dozens of people filled out voter registration forms. Some had to wait 2 days for their turn. Equipped with a book and a cap with the Kenko logo, Nancy Makola takes notes. She's just one of 600 accredited observers overseeing the registration process, a number that will likely swell into the tens of thousands when voting gets underway in December. Makola has visited 15 registration centers over the past month, and she has concerns.
The enrollment is scheduled to end here on the 23rd of January, but there are still a lot of people who did not get their voter cards. We don't know what to do. In this room, we have all the machines that are here. 2 of them do not work.
Based on this and over 1,500 other observer reports, Kenko and the ECC recommended that the Election Commission, CENI, extend the registration deadline, which it did, until February the 17th.
Still ahead on the program. Life's no longer rosy as Senegal's Pink Lake turns green following massive flooding. Details in a moment. Please stay with us.
It's engaging, fascinating, and insightful. Join us as we connect with the global community of Nigerians around the world. We talk about life in the diaspora, flying the Nigerian flag, their culture, socio-political activities, and survival stories on Channels Television.
Britain is quite a racist country, and where they see asylum seekers on the street and they have a very poor opinion of them.
Diaspora Network, engaging diasporans for development.
Welcome back to Network Africa. Let's continue our discussion on the latest developments between DR Congo and Rwanda, which is the shooting at of an aircraft that had violated one of the other space. And the security expert, David Otto, has been talking about the situation. He joins us virtually from the nation's capital in Abuja. David, as we were discussing, could you compare this to what sparked the civil war in Rwanda when the then Rwandan president Habi Arimana's plane was shot down above Kigali airport? This is in 1994.
Yes, of course. Jumoke, this was also a very big trigger to what became known as the Rwanda genocide. But, this is a very different scenario. The Hutu Tutsi rebellion, which, of course, it's terribly, tragic. It's a very different, encounter to what we're experiencing between Congo DRC and Rwanda. So these are, interstate conflict, not a conflict within or an internal conflict, as it were, at the time. But again, I think it does carry a very heavy consequence. If at all, for example, DRC Congo were to retaliate against, what they've accused, Rwanda of shooting down, of course, targeting, their Suki-25, military jet. But I doubt that, it will come to that, because, of course, both sides are not ready, in my opinion, despite the escalation, to go into any kind of a Ukraine-Russia kind of war at this point in time.
Quickly, the clash in Mali has gone beyond worrying parties, the kidnap of, WHO aid worker. What do you make of this unrest?
The situation in the Sahel and especially in Mali, it's deteriorating. But of course, you remember that, with the sending away of the French, Operation Barkhane, there was a huge gap, or there has been a huge gap, in its military, refilling of that position, especially the fact that, the Malian government is still struggling to find its feet. It hasn't actually moved away from the military junta, which took over. So it's still struggling, and these kind of situations will continue to occur. I know that, the Malian government has looked into, Russia for help, and that hasn't gone down well with the Western states. So there are a lot of gaps, which needs to be filled. And these kind of situations are indicative of some of the loopholes that one experiences when, the country does not have a very comprehensive strategy, and the leadership is not very sure about its future. But unfortunate, the incident is, but it's not something that is surprising in the circumstances.
Security expert David Otto, thanks for giving us that update from all situations in DR Congo, Rwanda, and of course the latest being Mali. Let's move on to other stories as we check in on the weather now, particularly in Madagascar, which has been hit by a deadly cyclone that killed at least 4 people and left 14 others missing. Several districts of Mahajanga in the northwest of Madagascar have been flooded, as well as the roads that connect them to the capital. Cyclone Cheneso continues to hit the island, with more than 15,000 people affected to date. We're now in South Africa, where the death toll from an ongoing heat wave in parts of the country has risen to 8. The South African government expresses concern over the impact of the hot weather that the country has been experiencing, urging people to take caution. Some parts of the country have recently been experiencing temperatures of above 40 degrees Celsius. The government has urged people to take measures such as drinking water, and plenty of it too, and wearing light clothing to avoid heat exhaustion. However, the South African Weather Service has assured residents that cooler weather is expected by the weekend. The pink hue of western Senegal's Lac Rose once drew thousands of tourists from all over the world to its salt-laden shores. But today, a new wide channel spews brownish-green water into the lake, whose shore is dotted with dead fish.
Pape Siriba and a dozen other salt farmers bag up what may be their last harvest after extreme floods contaminated the lake and turned its famous pink waters green, threatening thousands who depend on it for their livelihoods. Officially known as Retba, the lake's high salinity and rare microbiome long fostered an algae that turned it pinkish in the right season, making it one of the country's most visited attractions and under consideration as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
This is the first time we have seen so much water coming here. We have witnessed many rainy seasons, but what is happening this year is unprecedented.
Everything changed last September when torrential rains hit the nearby capital, Dakar, and swept flood waters towards the lake, tearing a wide channel in its bank. The deluge washed away countless carefully tended salt mounds and submerged tourist businesses on the shoreline. The flooding destroyed 7,000 tons of salt, worth about 1 billion CFA francs, or $1.7 million, according to the Salt Extractors Association. Bar now fears the changed composition of the lake will make further harvests impossible. The salt farmers are just some of the 3,000 people who lived off the lake. Boatmen and souvenir sellers also fear for the future if the waters remain the current unremarkable hue.
It was the pink color that brought the visitor. The over-salinization of the water also allowed visitors to float on top of the lake, like in the Dead Sea. Currently, we have no customers.
It's peak tourist season in Senegal, but Dieng and others have been waiting in vain beside their pink flat-bottom boats. Hydrologist Cyclone says the ongoing influx of sediment-heavy water could permanently change the lake's unusual ecosystem.
The elements which live there and which are responsible for the pink color are linked to this environment, which is extreme. If the environment is diluted, these elements will disappear. Secondly, the salt which is exploited in the pink is linked to the saturation of this lake. If the lake is diluted, the salt will disappear. Even during this rainy season, you see that all the salt dunes have been dissolved. This would amount to death warrant for the lake.
The floodwaters are slowly receding around the souvenir and crafts market at the lake, but vendors are still worried. As they hawk bracelets, fans and trinkets in a line of unfrequented stalls, they are unsure the lake will ever be like it used to.
Finally, we take a look at the economy, this time in Zimbabwe, where worn-out US dollar notes are finding a new home on the streets of Harare, where they are bought at nearly half their value for resale at a profit after mending. Rejected by supermarkets and other formal traders, the torn notes have found takers in more informal settings.
Zimbabwean black market currency trader Cuthbert Gudza holds up a $2 note to assess a tear in it and delicately applies glue to make it whole again. He then leaves it in the sun to dry out, declaring it's as good as new. Following the collapse of the Zimbabwean dollar in 2009 amidst record-breaking inflation, locals have relied on the greenback for daily transactions. But with limited access to the U.S. currency, some grimy notes are making a fresh comeback. Even though Zimbabwean banks are mandated to accept soiled money in exchange for crispy notes, general mistrust in the financial system after people lost their savings due to hyperinflation has seen black market traders preferred over banks.
I am a potato seller, but I saw buying turned US dollar notes as another business opportunity. These notes are rejected in supermarkets, but I take them for resale. We pay 600 Zimbabwe dollars per every US dollar. Those who did not want the money, we sell them our produce, including potatoes, oranges, or apples.
Gudza declares if the serial number from both sides is visible, the note qualifies for sale. Aware of the trend, the central bank has asked citizens to make use of official channels to exchange old notes, saying it is ready to take sold notes in exchange for new ones.
That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.